There is a plant that breaks the rules of modern agriculture. It doesn't need fields, rows, or a stable dry season, just flowing fresh water, and it spreads as if no one can control it. It grows along streams, clings to riverbanks, and stays vividly alive in places where most crops fail under flooding and cold. And the part that sounds unbelievable is backed by data. In a nutrient density ranking by the CDC, this was the only vegetable to score a perfect 100 over 100, ranked number 1 out of 47 fruits and vegetables evaluated. While superfoods are sold with marketing and packaging, this one has small leaves and a sharp, mustard-like bite. So ordinary looking it gets ignored, despite being eaten for over 3,000 years, from ancient Persia to Greece and Rome. It's too easy to grow, too abundant in the wild, too difficult to own, so the world had no reason to pay attention, until you stare at that 100 over 100 score. If you want more forgotten food files like this, like and subscribe to support the channel. Now, let's open the archive and follow the trail of the secret green that's been living in the water right beside us. The spring beside the first hospital on the island of Kos wasn't there for scenery. Around 400 BCE, Hippocrates built his healing center next to running water for one practical reason: to grow watercress as a treatment for blood-related disorders. He called it the cure of cures, as if every other remedy was secondary. Even the Latin name doesn't hide the point. Nasturtium describes the nose-wrinkling sting of its peppery scent, and officinale marks it as a plant approved for the pharmacies and provision shops of ancient Rome. Then, something stranger happens. Greece wasn't alone in choosing it. Persia chose it too. When Xerxes I ordered soldiers to eat watercress on long marches to preserve strength, improve endurance, and ward off scurvy, Rome chose it for different reasons. Bold decisions, remedies for disturbed minds, even treatments for hair loss. Multiple civilizations, independently, converged on the same sharp green growing beside clean water. What did they see in this plant that the modern world has nearly forgotten how to name? The next section reveals that watercress wasn't a niche ingredient. It was once something a city ran on. When Europe entered the modern era, watercress didn't disappear. It was industrialized before anyone had a name for the industrial food system. Commercial cultivation was recorded in Kent in 1808, but the shift from wild foraging to organized growing had already begun in the mid-1500s in Erfurt, then spread through the 1600s to France near Paris. And the Victorian era is where the story becomes hard to believe. Watercress was called poor man's bread, because in London, the working class consumed up to 32,000 bunches every single day. Children sold it at Covent Garden, tied into small posies, and ate it on the move, an early form of portable street food. The upper classes served it as chilled soup and velouté sauce. Laborers packed it into sandwiches in place of meat. A food that crossed class boundaries, yet would later be demoted into a mere side. The railways were optimized for it. The Watercress line in Hampshire carried wicker flats straight into London markets, turning Alresford into the UK's watercress capital. If a plant once justified its own logistics corridor to reach the table in time, it was never just garnish. The next section answers with numbers, not nostalgia. In 2014, CDC published a ranking that quietly collapses a modern belief system. Watercress scored 100 over 100 for nutrient density, the only vegetable to reach a perfect score. In a study led by Jennifer Di Noia at William Patterson University, measuring 17 essential nutrients and defining powerhouse foods by percent daily value per 100 kilocalories. Chinese cabbage scored 91.99, spinach 86.43. Kale, the mainstream superfood icon, landed at 49.07. Blueberries didn't even qualify for the list. The contradiction is the point. The food marketed as super fails the threshold, while the one treated as decoration stands alone at the top. Per 100 grams, Watercress delivers about 250 micrograms vitamin K, 43 to 51.5 milligrams. Vitamin C, 120 to 170 milligrams calcium, 2.2 milligrams iron, packed into just 11 calories. And it's not only more nutrients, its mechanism, when you chew or cut it. The glucosinolate myrosinase system releases isothiocyanates like PEITC, creating the peppery bite and triggering biological effects that modern studies can measure. Its biological impossibility is also a systemic paradox. Supply chains reward what ships well, lasts long, and wilts slowly, like lettuce, while the most nutrient-dense green gets punished for being too fresh, too alive. But that paradox is exactly where the real story begins. How watercress works, who benefits from its disappearance, and why it may be built for a future that looks more unstable than anyone wants to admit. If there's a vegetable that looks so fragile it wilts after a few hours outside the fridge, modern logic would say it can't possibly be a biological machine built for survival. But watercress operates like a complete system, not a bundle of leaves. It's a perennial semi-aquatic plant designed to cling to streams and moving freshwater, with roots that can sit fully submerged, hollow crisp stems, and growth that spreads across water and saturated soil. The real anomaly is its ideal habitat. Spring water rising from underground aquifers holds near constant temperatures around 10 degrees Celsius, effectively locking the growing season in place, shielding the crop from winter frost, preventing freeze-ups, and buffering drought because water keeps pushing up from below. Inside the plant is something like a portable chemical defense lab, the glucosinolate myrosinase system. The moment it's chewed or cut, enzymes activate and convert stored compounds into isothiocyanates such as PEITC, producing the mustard-like bite and deterring pests. The older the plant, the hotter it gets, sometimes approaching wasabi, like a built-in escalation of protection over time. And that mechanism unlocks the larger question. If the chemistry is triggered in the eater's mouth, does it stop at flavor? The next section goes straight to human data, using everyday amounts, not pharmaceutical doses. The most inconvenient thing for modern beliefs is that watercress doesn't need folklore. It has numbers cold enough to speak for themselves. In 2007, a single-blind, randomized, crossover trial with 60 healthy adults led by Ian Rowland at University of Ulster had participants eat 85 grams of fresh watercress daily for 8 weeks, literally a bowlful, not a supplement capsule. The study reported reductions in multiple measures of DNA damage, alongside sharp increases in plasma lutein and beta-carotene, and an average approximately 10% drop in triglycerides. One detail stands out. Smokers appeared to benefit more, as if watercress targets bodies starting with weaker antioxidant defenses. In 2010, Graham Packham and colleagues at University of Southampton tracked PEITC in blood after roughly 80 grams and observed measurable effects on pathways involving HIFA, a master switch tumors used to summon new blood vessels. In 2018, collaborative work involving Imperial College London and Cancer Research UK suggested PEITC may increase breast cancer cell sensitivity to radiotherapy, while watercress extract may help protect normal cells, linked to shifts in glutathione. This isn't a cure claim, it's a mechanism map coming into focus. And once a mechanism is visible, The next question gets sharper. If it's that potent, why was it demoted to plate decoration? Watercress didn't decline like a failed crop. It declined like something the distribution system sentenced. The first wave hit after 1945. Wartime ration memories made people reject foods that reminded them of hard years, even if those foods had sustained them. The second wave arrived in the 1950s to 60s as import competition and new exotic salad greens flooded in. While watercress remained constrained by biology, it needs clean, continuously moving water, and it doesn't scale like dry soil greens. Then came the infrastructure cut, the rail closures culminating in the Watercress line, shutting down on the 4th of February 1973, making transport from remote farms slower and dramatically more expensive. The third wave was an image war from the 1980s to the 2000s. Lettuce became cheaper, longer lasting, and perfectly engineered for the supermarket shelf. Watercress stayed brutally perishable, 2 to 3 days fresh, quick to wilt, and impossible to dry without losing its identity. The winners were supply chains that reward shelf life over nutrient density, and mass salad industries built around long-distance logistics. The numbers reveal the scale, from over 1,000 acres at its peak to roughly 150 acres by the end of the 20th century, an 85% collapse, with about 90% of growers quitting. Yet that weakness also points to the escape route. When outdoor logistics kills it, controlled water systems indoors can save it. The next section shows who is bringing it back and how they're reversing the game. Watercress didn't disappear because it was weak. It was eliminated because it refused to cooperate with the economics of the shelf. This is a plant that's almost impossible to industrialize in the usual way. It wilts fast, is often sold with roots attached to retain moisture, stays truly fresh for only 2 to 3 days, and if you dry it, you lose what matters most: its peppery identity and the activation of key compounds released when you chew. Meanwhile, lettuce wins with a very modern advantage. It tolerates long transport, sits cold for longer, and doesn't need a story to sell. Cultivation is no more forgiving. Watercress demands clean, continuously flowing water, either natural springs or controlled hydroponics, constant water quality monitoring, and it carries parasite risk such as Fasciola hepatica if grown near water contaminated by livestock waste. Upfront infrastructure costs are high, and it doesn't scale like broadacre soil greens. That's the paradox. The most nutrient-dense green loses on logistics, while less nutrient-dense greens win on durability. The beneficiaries don't need a conspiracy, only a system that rewards supply chain stability. But if the supply chain is the problem, the solution is also a supply chain. The next section shows who started changing the game by attacking that weakness directly. Watercress's comeback didn't begin with a miracle campaign. It began with a coalition that understood forgotten is a perception problem, not a science problem. In 2003, the Watercress Alliance was formed by 3 major producers: Bacavor, Vitacress, and the Watercress Company. They didn't try to reinvent watercress as new. They pulled it back to its rightful status, a legitimate staple, not plate decoration. Their message, not just a bit on the side, went straight at the garnish stigma, while research funding gave the story a scientific backbone. In the U.S., B&W quality growers pursued a following the sun model across multiple states, turning a temperamental crop into a consistent product presence. CEO Mark DeLeo publicly positioned watercress alongside century-old legacy brands as a statement. This is a serious category, not a fad. And the key move is what they didn't do. They didn't sell miracles. They sold mechanism, quality, and reliability. The next section connects the research milestones to market trends to show why watercress may be returning at exactly the right moment. The core of the revival is a sequence markets often overlook. Science does its job first, then mass awareness finally catches up. In 2007, human data arrived using an achievable daily serving. In 2010, the PEITC mechanism surfaced, showing interference with a biological pathway linked to tumor growth. In 2014, the nutrient density ranking delivered a public perception jolt. In 2018, radiotherapy-related findings widened the clinical relevance. Put together, watercress stops being a peppery green and becomes a model. High nutrition per calorie, activation chemistry triggered at the moment of eating, and a history suppressed by logistics, not by lack of value. The irony is that the future is now drifting in its favor. Climate volatility makes outdoor harvests harder to predict. Long-distance salad supply chains become more fragile, while indoor hydroponics enables control over clean water and temperature and reduces parasite exposure. And at the personal level, the power is embarrassingly simple. Know how to use it and preserve its activity. Favor raw or lightly cooked preparations. Store it like a bouquet in a cup of water. And if you want, grow it at home with a 2-pot setup or a small hydro system. The next section shifts from the big picture to actionable steps: identification, usage, serving amounts, and how to make it a practical habit without going extreme. If watercress was once killed by the supermarket shelf system, the first step to taking back control is simple. Recognize it correctly, eat it correctly, and store it correctly. True watercress has small round to oval leaves, a deep glossy green color, lightly toothed edges, and hollow, crisp stems. Each stem typically carries 3 to 9 leaflets. When mature, it produces small white 4-petaled flowers. Take one bite and the mustard-like heat rises. This isn't just flavor, it's a reaction. Compounds are released when the tissue is cut or chewed. Don't confuse it with garden cress, which is usually smaller, grown in dry soil, smells different, and lacks watercress's signature born-by-the-stream character. If the goal is to maximize the mechanism, prioritize raw or lightly cooked uses. Salads, mixed with spinach/arugula to balance the bite. Classic British-style sandwiches, smoothies/juice, or sprinkled over hot food right before eating. Cooked preparations still work, just milder, ideal for watercress soup, garlic stir-fries, or a quick blanch finished with sesame oil/miso. A realistic everyday amount used in research is about 80 to 85 grams per day, roughly a cereal bowl full. Practical note: because vitamin K is very high, anyone on blood thinners should ask a doctor, and if foraging wild, wash extremely thoroughly and avoid water sources with contamination risk. Store it like a bouquet, stand it in a cup of water, cover with a bag or damp paper towel, refrigerate, and use within 2 to 3 days. To escape the logistics problem entirely, grow it at home. The simple 2-pot method, a well-drained soil pot sitting in a water tray, or basic hydroponics at about pH 6.0 to 7.0 with 12 to 14 hours of light per day. You can even root cuttings from a store-bought bunch by placing stems in nutrient water. New roots often appear within days. In the UK, look at Tesco, Sainsbury's, and Waitrose. In the US, B&W quality. Growers' products are common in supermarkets, farmers' markets, and many Asian groceries. Seeds are often available from Johnny's Selected Seeds and Sow Right Seeds. The rest doesn't require belief. Just try it the right way and pay attention to your body. And once you notice the difference, you'll understand why a forgotten superfood doesn't need to be rescued by trends. It only needs to be called back by knowledge. This isn't a story about rediscovery. It's a story about recognition. Watercress never disappeared. It still grows along running springs, is still cultivated by dedicated growers, and still ranks 100 out of 100 for nutrient density. While just 85 grams a day has been shown to reduce DNA damage markers and sharply raise lutein and beta-carotene. What vanished was its place in the daily diet, and the cultural memory of why so many civilizations chose it. If we don't protect that knowledge, the shelf will erase it one more time. If this video helped you, like, subscribe, and comment what you think. Every like and share helps preserve this knowledge, and if you want to open an even stranger file about a Victorian-era luxury vegetable noted by Darwin as covering hundreds of square miles in Argentina, packed with liver-protective compounds, yet missing today because it demands too much work for modern industry. Click the next video on your screen. Take care, and I'll see you in the next videos.